Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto had a chance to meet his ancestors, and it changes his life forever, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, JAYSEN. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's start the story. A young boy could be seen racing, as fast as his legs could carry him through the forests that bordered the village hidden in the leaves, Konoha. This boy in particular had a few unique features to him, such as his bright orange jumpsuit, sun-colored blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, very unique whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks, and was carrying a rather large scroll on his back. As he stopped in a clearing, his mind wandered back to the events that led to him being there in the first place, which happened earlier that day. Flashback. 8 hours ago at Konoha Ninja Academy, Naruto sat alone and dejected on a swing in the courtyard of the academy. He had just failed the graduation exam for the third time, and had to sit and watch his classmates celebrate with their families. Some of the parents noticed him looking at them, and began to comment. Good thing that little beast failed. What were they thinking, letting him into the academy? I know, why didn't the Sandaime just kill that thing when he had the chance? Naruto had heard enough. He angrily marched straight back to the classroom to collect what little he had when he was stopped by Mizuki. Mizuki told Naruto of a secret way to become a genin, steal the forbidden scroll in the Hokage's office, and bring it to him without getting caught. Naruto jumped at the opportunity, and left for his apartment to get ready for his supposed exam. What he failed to notice was the cruel smirk on Mizuki's face, as he left. Flashback end. He shook himself out of those thoughts, as he set to work on learning the first on the scroll while he waited. In a nearby part of the forest, Iruka bounded toward Naruto's chakra signature in a real hurry. Damn it, Naruto, why did you do this? He wondered. After a few more minutes, he came across the clearing Naruto was sitting in. After confronting him, Naruto told him about what Mizuki told him to do in order to become a genin. Mizuki chose that moment to show himself. Once he was sure that his true intentions were found out, he began to berate Naruto, and he skewed off on a tangent about the Kyuubi no Kitsune. During his rant, he broke one of the most severe laws of the village, the law concerning the Kyuubi and its vessel. The punishment for breaking the law was death on sight. He told Naruto that he was the Kyuubi's vessel, and therefore the Kyuubi itself. Naruto, don't listen to him, Iruka shouted. With that, Iruka and Mizuki began to fight over the scroll. Iruka and Naruto hightailed it back to the village with the scroll, but Mizuki threw one of his giant shuriken at him to kill him. Iruka leapt in front of the projectile, and took the blow for him. Naruto, you're not the Kyuubi. I know you well enough for that. The scarred Chunin began to tell him, but the silver-haired traitor closed in to finish him off. With a sudden burst of speed, Naruto intercepted him with a fierce kick to his jaw, sending him careening back into a tree. Mizuki looked up to see Naruto, glaring at him with an almost demonic intensity. If you touch Iruka-sensei, I'll kill you, Naruto roared in an unearthly tone. Mizuki at first began to chuckle, then laughed maniacally. You, kill me? You pathetic little demon, I'll kill you in one shot. Naruto didn't waste any time using the new he learned from the Forbidden Scroll, as he easily filled the forest clearing with hundreds of Kage-bunshin, all of them glaring at him. Mizuki stared at the orange army in fear and shock. What's wrong, team? Weren't you going to kill me? They all shouted in unison. If you won't fight, then I will. The Naruto Legion bellowed, as they swooped down upon the terrified traitor, and beat the ever-loving shit out of him, releasing 12 years of pent-up frustration and anger. After Naruto finished up with the traitor, Iruka called him over. Naruto, close your eyes for a moment. Naruto complied. Okay, now open them. Naruto felt a weight on his forehead, and felt it. He now had on a Konoha headband. Congratulations, Naruto. You've earned it, he told him, as the pair made their way back to Hokage Tower to debrief the Hokage. The pair had failed to notice the presence of a fourth person, who had witnessed the entire affair from the edge of the clearing, hiding in a nearby tree. The pale eyes of the girl in question were glistening in the moonlight, not because of the unique nature of her eyes, but because they were wet with tears shed for the one she cared for above all else. What have we done? He should have been seen as a hero for what he has been doing throughout his life, not condemned and hated. Wait, did my father have a hand in what happened to him? Hokage Tower 0106 HRS. Iruka and Naruto made their way back to Hokage Tower, and made their debrief with Sarutobi. Naruto was not only granted the rank of genin, but also credited with a B-rank mission for capturing a traitor. However, Naruto was now aware of the Kyuubi no Kitsune sealed within him, and he was rather upset that something this critical was kept from him. What the hell? Why didn't you tell me, old man? This stupid fox was sealed in me. Damn it, was I too stupid or something? Didn't you trust me? Or were you just like the others, viewing me as a monster? Answer me, he roared, tears beginning to leak out of his eyes. He felt betrayed by one of the only people he trusted, and felt safe around. Sarutobi never felt his age this badly since Yondaime died, and he had to come back out of retirement. Naruto, I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you, and wanted you to lead a normal life. Yondaime wanted you to be seen as a hero, but, well, we all know how that turned out, don't we? Naruto, please try to understand. After you were born, and the Kyuubi was sealed into you, the people of the village, both civilians and shinobi alike, were angry and upset that they lost their loved ones and their beloved leader all in the same night. Many called for your death, and still do. That night I made a law that no one was to ever speak of the demon, or of its jailer. This was done in order to protect you, and hopefully help you make some friends, but they got their kids to hate me, just like them, right? Fat lot of good that law did. First, the orphanage kicked me to the curb at 4 years old. After living on the streets for a year, you finally found me. Then, I was shoved into that crap shack that gets looted and or trashed every birthday, or whenever they were in the mood. Was all of that done to protect me, too? Naruto cried out, his tears now running as freely as his rage and sorrow. As the small blonde's rage came to its zenith, a blinding white light washed over the tower from the skies above. All of the office's occupants, both seen and unseen, raced to the roof to see what was happening. As they hit the rooftop, a beam of light shot down before them, and hit the tower roof with explosive force, leaving a man-sized crater in its wake, with a person laying in the middle of it with a sword in his hand. As the small crowd drew closer, they noticed that this mysterious person had several severe injuries, and was barely breathing. The man was young, easily in his early 20s, tall with bright blonde hair. He attempted to stand, but collapsed in a bloody heap. Naruto got a good look at him, and noticed that this stranger looked just like him, only older, and with no whiskers. Who is this guy? Why does he look just like me? He thought, as he felt something flicker to life within him. Could it be? Is it really him? After so long, over 700 years too long, the voice, which sounded surprisingly female and soft, said longingly. What was that? Naruto wondered, as a stern gaze from the Hokage snapped him out of it. No one is to breathe a word of this. If word got out, spies from all corners of the world would begin to flock here, and start sniffing about. I will not have that happening, is that clear? Iruka merely straightened himself before answering. Of course, Hokage-sama. Naruto remained silent for a moment, then replied, sure. But don't think for a moment that we're finished, old man. I've still got more questions for you, but those can wait for now, he told the elderly shinobi with a scowl that should never have adorned his face. Both of them left the building, bound for their different destinations, while Sarutobi pondered what to do. Tora, take him to the hospital at once. I will follow, as soon as I am done here. The tiger-masked Anbu snapped a quick salute. At once, Hokage-sama. He wheeled around, and loaded the blonde man onto his shoulder. OF. He didn't look that heavy, he grumbled, as the sunshine D off to the hospital. The old Hokage turned to the rest of his Anbu. Repair the damage, and clean up the blood. Remove any evidence of what just happened, he ordered, as they all set to work. Now, to get myself to the hospital. I must find out just what happened, and who that young man is, and why he looks like Naruto, he thought, as his gaze turned toward the Hokage monument, Yondaime's head in particular. Minato, I feel as though I have failed you. This village has all but spit on the sacrifice your son and yourself have made. I failed to make them understand, and failed to protect the poor boy from this village's ignorance and hatred. Now I fear Naruto will never trust me or this village ever again. The kind, happy, and smiling little boy I once knew is now gone. How can I ever make up for the lapses in judgment that cost you so dearly, Naruto? Konoha Hospital, April 13, 0400 HRS. Medic needs and doctors alike were gathered in a single recovery room, gazing in awe at the patient that was dropped off by one of the ANBU at the Hokage's request. The mysterious young man was brought in with severe mortal wounds and was slowly dying. But a few seconds before they started to treat him, the wounds began to heal, seemingly on their own. His vitals, which were weak and erratic before, were now strong and stable, as if he were only sleeping. A scanning was used to observe how this was even possible, but the results in the end were inconclusive. They did discover that his chakra capacity was jaw-dropping. One medic commented that he never seen so much chakra in a person before in his life. The doctor in charge of his medical treatment had just finished briefing the Hokage, who came in a few moments ago. And ever since, he's just been sleeping peacefully, recovering. Sarutobi was carefully weighing what he was just told. His healing rate is nothing short of astounding. Only Naruto or other Jinchuriki like himself have ever healed that quickly. I must know more, he told himself inwardly. He turned to the nearest ANBU guard. Go, and fetch Inoichi Yamanaka immediately. Tell him this is urgent. The ANBU in question snapped to attention, and saluted. He then got to the task he was assigned. 30 minutes later I saw Inoichi in front of the Hokage, and was briefed on the situation. Let me get this straight. You want me to take a peek in his head while he's out, and see who he is, and why he's here? That's about the long and short of it, yes. If you sense any hostility, pull out at once, and we will find other means. While you are in there, I've got my own suspicions to confirm, Sarutobi instructed him, as he began to prepare. Inoichi pulled up a chair to the blonde stranger's bedside, and used his clan signature, the stranger's mindscape. Inoichi opened his eyes to find that this was a success. He found himself in a long, dimly lit hallway, lined with heavy-looking wooden doors that seemed to stretch on forever. His mind and thoughts seemed to be fairly organized. I think that I should try a door, he mused, as he twisted the knob on the first door he found, opened the door, and walked inside. Inside of the room, the decorum was like that of a meeting or planning room. There was a large wooden table surrounded by comfortable chairs. At the foot of the table sat a projector. On the wall in front of it was a white projection screen. Inoichi flipped the switch, took a seat, and began to watch what was on the reel. These must be his memories, based on the content. He watched as a beautiful, red-haired young woman, the same age as his subject, came into view. But his reaction was surprising. Kekushina Uzumaki? He thought wildly for a moment, but realized that this girl was much younger than the person he was thinking of. Still, the resemblance is quite astonishing. I'd swear that she was her daughter or twin sister. Ichigo-kun, come on, let's go, she giggled, while pulling the young man along. So, his name is Ichigo. Interesting. All of these memories must be some of his happier ones. He seems like a decent young man, the mindjutsu expert concluded, as watched more of his memories. This time, he saw what the young man was capable of in battle. He fought against what seemed to be mechanical golems and strange creatures that refused to die, until he asserted himself with a little more authority. Inoichi was shocked. Ichigo had literally willed the wind around him, and the water and the air to attack his enemies. Several dragons made of both elements roared to life, as they launched themselves in all directions into his adversaries, ripping them apart with disturbing ease. What was that? Futon and Sueton without hand seals? It's like those elements are obeying his will, like he owns them. Amazing! Next, as if this were a showcase of his abilities, Inoichi watched as Ichigo fought with a massive degree of skill and power in taijutsu, and with a multitude of different styles, some of which he'd never seen before. The young blonde moved so quickly, he was only a blur most of the time. The projector finally came to a stop. This young man, what is he? Just how powerful is he? And where were all of these places that I saw? Suddenly a voice rang out from the doorway. Who are you? What are you doing in my head? The voice called out, sounding more puzzled than anything. The senior Yamanaka turned around to find the very person whose mind he was loitering around in. He was at a loss. It was the first time he had been mentally confronted like this, but kept himself composed. He also took the opportunity to introduce himself. I am Inoichi Yamanaka, a shinobi of Konoha, which is where you are currently, or to be specific, its hospital, Ichigo-sen. Whatever scrap you got into left some serious, even life-threatening wounds, but somehow, your body healed them in record time. Due to the strange circumstances of your arrival, and your amazingly quick healing, the leader of our village asked me to poke around in your head for information, and to determine if you were a hostile threat. You did, huh? So, you saw me fight? Yes, I did. I must say that I was deeply impressed. Your level of elemental mastery over water hasn't been seen since Niding. Your skill with taijutsu is something that our own taijutsu expert would be hard-pressed to match, especially from one so young. Ichigo looked gobsmacked. He wasn't frightened? He didn't consider him a monster like so many others did to Shina. And himself? Aren't you scared? Inoichi looked incredulous. Why? You obviously don't mean us any harm. In fact, I'd like you to speak to our leader. He would more than likely offer you and your, girlfriend a place in our village. Wait, where is she? Did you see a young woman with red hair and deep green eyes? Inoichi looked regretful. No, you were the only one we found. Now, back to the question at hand. Ichigo looked downcast as the room around them melted away and revealed a war-torn city of some sort. Flashback. Ichigo stood amid the ruins of the town he and Shina had been staying in. The chimeras and mech soldiers that had been hounding them since their escape from the Erebus labs had laid waste to a once peaceful German town. He had told Shina to take cover while he bought her enough time to escape. She had been injured in a previous battle, and she didn't heal as fast as he did, so he hid her away. He had a strange blade that acted like a whip on hand as he began to fight back. Many of his enemies fell to his blade and his elemental powers, but more kept coming. They aren't playing around this time. The Illuminati wants us destroyed, and they don't care who or what gets in their way, he growled, as he finished off another chimera. Time to kick this up a notch. The weather was actually to his advantage, as it was raining, giving him plenty of water to work with, and he began to sling water and wind projectiles in various shapes and sizes in all directions to thin out the numbers a bit. After an hour of non-stop fighting, he was wearing down, and his injuries were taking their toll, as the Illuminati's forces closed in for the kill. No, I can't let them get her, I love her, he thought, as he braced himself to use the last of his strength in a desperate last stand which probably would have killed him. From out of nowhere, a mighty roar sounded, stunning all present. Suddenly a massive fox dropped in front of the weakened Ichigo, draping some of its 9 tails around him protectively. It then blew the remaining enemy forces away with a mighty sweep of its remaining tails. Riding in the snout of the majestic beast was a young woman with flaming red hair. Ichigo Kyuen, you're alive, she cried out in relief. She vaulted down to him and hugged him for dear life. She saved me and brought me here to you, she told him, motioning to the massive fox. He looked at it with gratitude in his eyes. Thank you, Saki, you saved her life. I'm in your debt. The giant fox replied in a very gentle, and surprisingly enough, a female voice. No, I haven't even begun to repay the debt that myself and the rest of my kind owe to the two of you. I will always watch over you, as a guardian, and any future kids you may have, she told them with unmistakable mischievousness in her voice. You have my word and my honor, she added solemnly. He leaned in and hugged her snout with an arm still around Sheena. Thank you, QB. In the distance, they all heard the sound of something big approaching them from the air, followed by the sound of something large being dropped near them. Ichigo knew what it was, and became alarmed. It's an N2 mine. Saki, protect her, he bellowed, as he used the last of his power to erect a barrier of chakra around them. She didn't have enough time to argue, as the bomb detonated nearby. The shockwaves were upon them nearly an instant later, destroying everything in its path. The energy from the explosive device collided with the barriers that Saki and Ichigo threw up. They held firm for a moment, but then Ichigo's wavered from combat fatigue and chakra depletion. Suddenly, the two opposing forces ripped open a hole in the fabric of time and space. The vortex had begun to pull at him, and in a moment of weakness, pulled him inside. The final thing he heard was 2 female voices crying out, "Nuh!" and flashback. Inoichi sat down in one of the room's chairs in shock of what he just learned. The QB, what were you doing with the QB no Kitsune? Did you order it to attack us 12 years ago? He bellowed in anger. Ichigo looked at him like he grew another head. What? God, no! You just saw all of my memories. She was once just a normal, docile fox spirit when she and 8 other spirits were captured to turn into weapons. Sheena and myself were engineered to be partnered with them, as well as being weapons ourselves. We broke free with the help of 3 people who were involved with the project. They had a change of conscience and freed us. They were Guren Hyuga, Kyohaku Senju who helped track and trap the spirits, and Futaba Yuhi who had a hand in creating myself, and Sheena from Norman Human Babies. Senju Hyuga Yuhi? What is going on here? But he can't be lying, or I'd know about it. Then Inoichi paused, as realization dawned on him. All of those objects, those places, and names, no doubt about it. He's actually from the Presage era, he mentally exclaimed, but then grew somber. Sadly, the people he knew and loved are all long dead. He is truly alone now, the only survivor of his kind, he concluded. Ichigo felt a mental tug. Well, looks like I should be able to regain consciousness now. We'll talk more on the other side, he told the Mindjutsu expert, as he gave said person a quick mental shove back into his own body. Well, time to find out just what the hell is going on here. Ichigo opened his eyes groggily to see the man he was talking with only a moment ago conversing with an elderly man in white robes, and wearing a strange hat with the kanji for fire on it in red. He noticed that the conversation had to do with him, and what the man saw inside his head. They noticed that he was now awake, and broke off their chat. The old man greeted him warmly. Good morning, Ichigo-kun. I am Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage of this village, Konoha. I understand from Yamanaka-san that you are a long way from home, about 700 years, we've estimated, I'm sorry to say. Ichigo felt his blood freeze. Visions of Sheena's bright and loving smile flashed before his crystal blue eyes, then vanished, as tears formed in them. No, this has to be a mistake, or a nightmare, this can't be happening, please God. No, he began to whimper. Sarutobi gazed at the sobbing young man in sympathy. He knew all too well what it was like to lose a mate, having lost his wife years ago. I know this must be very hard for you to bear. I know from experience, he told him softly, adding the last part at a whisper while putting a comforting hand on his shoulder. Inoichi simply gazed on in worry. He had never gone through losing his wife, and certainly didn't want to find out how much it hurt, either. After a few moments, a young nurse quietly entered the room with a small clipboard in her hands. Hokage-sama, here are the results of the blood tests you requested, she told him, as she handed the results to him. The old man flipped through the results multiple times, becoming more and more alarmed by the second. Impossible, it's a complete genetic match. One could say that his blood is actually more pure, as if he were the source of the bloodline. This man is Naruto's ancestor. No wonder they look so much alike. Wait, who else has seen these results? He snapped, slightly scaring the poor young woman. Besides myself, Only the lab technician, sir, she squeaked out. The elderly shinobi sighed in relief, then responded, no one knows these results. I want you, and the same person to run a new series of tests, against his blood again, and these 2 individuals he ordered, as he inscribed the 2 people's names. Understandably, the young nurse gasped in shock. Why, you can't be serious. Yes, I am. Now go. Tell no one or the penalty is death, he told her in a stern tone, one befitting a leader. As she scrambled off, he turned to the grieving young man before him. Ichigo-kun, I have a question for you, he said aloud, getting his attention before lowering his voice. Did you and Shina-chan get intimate at any time? Ichigo blushed, and flustered for a moment, then offered a weak nod. Sarutobi began to smile. Then I have some good news for you. You have descendants, one of whom lives right here in this village, and looks just like you. You mean she was pregnant with my child? Saki, she knew, and protected her. Ichigo breathed out, too shocked for anything else. The old Hokage started, as he began to tell him about Naruto's past, warts, and all. He believed that Ichigo deserved to know the whole truth. Ichigo was ecstatic with the news that he had descendants. He and Shina had children, and they had kids of their own, and so on, and so forth. However, his face fell into a fierce scowl when he was told of Naruto's treatment. When he asked why, Sarutobi told him of the Kyuubi, and how it attacked the village the night Naruto was born, and how it was sealed within him. Ichigo gave a dismayed sigh, as he palmed his face. Even after all these years, humans still haven't gotten any more tolerant of anything different that they are, he muttered. Sarutobi winced at the acid in his tone, but remembered his abilities. Well, here, your abilities would be most welcome, and Naruto is a part of our shinobi forces now. You're asking me to join, aren't you? He asked with a slight smirk, then waved his hand dismissively. I would have asked you anyway. The old man was now grinning from ear to ear. This was like hitting pay dirt, as far as force strength went. I think my day just got better. I just might find forgiveness after all, he thought, as the 3 men went over plans to watch the blonde-haired foxboy in question. Ichigo proposed that he get an apartment right next to the Naruto's to make it easier to make initial contact with him, and make continued contact less suspicious to all around him. It wasn't that Sarutobi didn't trust the vast majority of his ninja where Naruto was concerned. Actually, he didn't. He didn't want others knowing to make things even more complicated, not even his future teacher or teammates, or even Naruto himself until the time was right. The elderly leader learned of the young blonde's battle abilities and ties to the Kyuubi through Inoichi. Sarutobi was shocked at the origin of the fearsome Bijou, but he became more understanding of their seemingly violent nature after the details were explained. He wanted to try to contact Kyuubi directly, and get her, yes her, reasons for attacking the village. The old man welcomed him into the village's ninja forces, and commissioned him as a jounin, and gave him his headband and jounin vest. He also assigned him to an apartment right next door to Naruto to make it easier to keep tabs on the boy. Ichigo was also given a pay advance to procure any equipment, furnishings, and supplies that he might need. Inoichi still had many questions about his new young fellow blonde, like about his sword. He'd never seen anything like before in his life. So, Ichigo-kun, about that sword of yours, exactly what kind of blade is it? Oh, I call it the Viper Blade. I found it a few years ago, and it seemed natural to me, he chirped, giving him a brief demonstration by lashing out with it at a nearby tree. The blade seemed to separate, and act like a whip, but it sliced cleanly through the tree like a sharp kunai through paper. Neat, huh? He said. The briefing was now over, and Ichigo was anxious to get settled into his new pad. Inoichi offered to show him around the village, to which his fellow blonde accepted. Their first stop was an outfitter, so that Ichigo could draw some basic weapons and supplies, as well as proper shinobi clothing. He stepped out of the shop actually looking the part of a Konoha jounin, with a short sword strapped to his lower back with his whip blade strapped across it. He also now wore metal arm guards on his forearms with fingerless gloves. Next was a bite to eat, and then to his apartment, where Inoichi informed him that should he need anything, ask him. He was given his address, and where he works. Meanwhile back at the tower, Sarutobi sank into his chair, really feeling his age this time. His mind mulled over all that he had learned, and tried to sort it all out. He now knew more about the Presage era than most, if not all historians in the village, not to mention the true origins of the Bijou, and their original purpose. Just before he could close his eyes for a few minutes of sleep, the same nurse from the hospital burst into the office, gasping for breath, as if she sprinted the entire distance to the tower. Here results, she wheezed, as she handed him the lab results, after which he told her to sit down and catch her breath. The results didn't shock him, as much as they should have. Both shared genetic markers in common with him. Inoichi did say that this Shina was the spitting image of Kushina-chan. Maybe at one point, the bloodline split off, one side forming the Namikaze, and the other the Uzumaki. Both clans just got a second chance at survival, he mused before turning his attention back to the young woman. This information is top secret. destroy all samples and records pertaining to this individual. Same rules apply. She didn't have to have that explained to her, as it was very clear as to what would happen if she divulged that information. Hi, Hokage-sama, she replied, as she made her way back to the hospital to carry out her orders. Sarutobi didn't have time to relax, though. The Jounin senseis were due in for their team assignments any minute now. With a tired sigh, he called them in. 9 Jounin filed into the spacious office, 3 of which stuck out. One was his own son, Asuma. He possessed the same beard and penchant for tobacco as his father. Also, he had at one time served the fire daimyo as a personal guard. He was slated to lead and train the new Ino Shikicho trio. He accepted the assignment with an amused expression. The next was a newer Jounin kunoichi by the name of Kurinai Yuhi. She accepted Team 8, a team that was to specialize in tracking and recon work. She was a moderate workaholic with a somewhat reserved personality, but she had her own reasons for wanting the Hyuga heiress on her team. Finally, there was Kakashi Hataki, son of the famous White Fang Tsukumo Hataki, as well as being known far and wide himself as the infamous Copy Ninja, or Sharingan Kakashi. He was assigned to Team 7. He had wanted to train the Uchiha survivors for some time now. The third team member, however, he was less than enthusiastic about. Naruto Uzumaki, huh? Dead last in all classes, scraping the bottom of the barrel in all skills. What a waste of time. Sarutobi eyed them with an unusual amount of scrutiny, especially Kakashi. He wondered if the Cycloptic Jounin had really learned from his past mistakes, or if he were only trying to run from them. I hope for Naruto's sake that he has, or this will get very ugly, very quickly. If he treats Naruto the same as the rest of the village, Ichigo is liable to make us short one more Sharingan user. He didn't look very happy when I mentioned why Naruto needed A and B bodyguards. He mused in worry. He knew that Ichigo possessed powers beyond anything that they'd ever seen, and that stomping the village flat wouldn't be much of a problem for him if they infuriated him enough, despite his live and let live demeanor. He remembered something that his own sensei, the Shodaime himself, told him once: even a guardian angel can become a devil when provoked. Naruto's apartment complex. Ichigo's apartment 0900 HRS. Ichigo had just finished putting the last of his things away when he went out to his balcony to take in the view. He got an improvised tour of the village from Inoichi, but he still had some questions. He was about to head back in to change into some more comfortable training clothes to burn off some excess energy when he heard a yawn come from the neighboring veranda. He looked over to see, for all intents and purposes, a midget version of himself. That must be Naruto. Damn, that kid's short. Didn't they feed this kid? He thought, as he observed the younger blonde. Said shortly noticed him staring at him. Ah, what are you doing here? He yelled in surprise. Geez, kid, don't come with a volume control, he remarked, his ears still ringing a bit. He then introduced himself. The name's Ichigo Suzumiya. See ya around, kiddo, the elder blonde announced, as he went back inside of his apartment. This guy's kind of strange, but at least he doesn't glare at me like everyone else. He might be alright, he told himself. Naruto felt the same voice he heard the previous night come back again. It is him. It's been too long, Ichigo-kun. I've missed you so, the voice wept. The voice turned her attention to him. You can trust him, kid. He will not harm you. In fact, he might even be willing to help you, if you ask him, the voice told him in a soothing voice. Naruto didn't know what to make of this. It was all so confusing for the boy. Who are you? How do you know him? He asked intently. I am called Kyubi no Kitsune, my child, she told him kindly. He was suddenly pulled into the depths of his mind, and found himself standing before a massive barred gate with a tag on it that said seal. Beyond the bars, lurked the most massive beast he thought he'd ever see, a 30-story tall fox with 9 massive tails. Naruto was dumbstruck, and awed by the sight, until he put 2 and 2 together. This thing was the reason why he was hated so much. His awe turned into anger at the realization of that fact. You growled at her, as he trembled in rage. Saki was not going to be denied her explanation. Naruto-kun, I must tell you my side of the story of what happened the night I was sealed away into you. I came to the village to fulfill an oath I made over 700 years ago to an ancestor of yours, an oath to protect his kids for the rest of my days. I was bound by a debt of honor to serve as your family's guardian beast. Upon approaching the village, I was ambushed, and placed under a genjutsu by a man with eyes that looked like a pinwheel. The illusion caused me to fly into a rage, destroying everything in my path. I continued to rampage until I met the yondaime, who looked so much like the person I swore my oath to. I was so shocked that I paused, which gave him the opening he needed to seal me into you, she told him, as softly as she could, somehow quelling his anger, as she did so. As if to further reinforce what she told him, she shifted down to her human form, a somewhat tall woman with fire-red hair and crimson eyes, wearing an elegant light blue-colored kimono with honey-brown-colored maple leaves adorning it, topped off by her red fox ears and her 9 tails. swishing gracefully behind her. Naruto was stunned into silence by her new appearance. Wow, she's beautiful, he thought, as he asked her what was on his mind. I'm sorry that I got mad at you. It's just that all this time, he began, as tears rolled down his cheeks. Saki saw this, and knew what to do for her young container. She drew him into the cage, and into a gentle embrace, the kind that only a mother could offer. I know, Naruto-kun, your life has been racked with heartbreak, and sorrow, with pain, and loneliness that could have broken even the strongest hearts, yet yours held fast. I can't even begin to tell you how proud I am of you, my kid, she told him, as she covered her small blonde host with her tails, allowing him to find some sort of reprieve. As Naruto rested in her tails, Saki fondly played with his spiky hair while thinking about all that she had learned that day. I will protect this kid, with my very soul if need be. I failed to protect your descendants before, but I will fulfill my oath by protecting this boy with all of my remaining powers. I swear it, she vowed, as she too fell into a peaceful slumber. 4 days later, April 17, 0730 HRS, Naruto's apartment. Naruto had woken up grudgingly with the shrill sound of his seemingly third-hand alarm clock. He then got up, showered, and began to boil some water for his ramen. During the 3-minute wait, his mind wandered back over the past 4 days. He had gotten acquainted with his new neighbor, Ichigo, on a more casual level. He wandered into a clearing that the older blonde was training in by chance, and was awestruck by the moves, techniques, and weapon that he used. The blade almost seemed as if it were alive. For a guy of his height, he was pretty graceful. He effortlessly bisected a pair of training posts like paper before letting his blade come back together. A little flashy, but deadly effective. Ichigo then noticed that he was being watched. So the runt came to watch, huh? He smiled to himself. May as well put on the best damn show he's ever seen. Naruto noticed that the air around him was becoming still and parched, while water began to spin and form around the elder shinobi. He then raised his hand, and the water shot out at a nearby tree, splitting it in half with a thunderous crack. It wasn't the sheer power of that floored the young, but the fact that he didn't use any hand seals to do what he did. It was as if the water was a living extension of himself, and did as he commanded. Saki watched from inside the seal. She knew that he was showing off in order to catch Naruto's attention, but was still surprised that a human in any form could wield such immense power. She knew that he wanted to train Naruto, and knew that no one else would. The short blonde was snapped out of his awe by Ichigo calling out to him. Hey there, short stuff, like what you saw. His neighbor called out to him with a warm smile. I guess I'll see what he wants. Kid could use some kind of positive attention. How did you do that? That was awesome, Naruto exclaimed loudly. Ichigo smirked, and rubbed the bridge of his nose proudly. That is a secret, little buddy, he teased me. What? Come on, can't you teach me anything? Come on, please, he begged, turning on the puppy dog eyes. Ichigo looked at the boy incredulously for a moment, then burst out into gut-busting laughter, falling to the ground while doing so. When he recovered, he looked Naruto in the eye. When you look at me like that, how can I refuse? He told him jokingly. For the next 4 days, Naruto was practically his neighbor's shadow, hanging off of the elder blonde's every word. They went through chakra control techniques, some simple taijutsu, and grappling. In return, Naruto taught him the Kage Bunshin, something that Ichigo found extremely useful. Then, the two neighbors just chatted over bowls of ramen at Ichiraku's, like they had been friends and neighbors for years. Ichigo was well received by the ramen chef and his daughter, seeing as the tall had all but taken Naruto under his wing. The boy came in all scuffed up, dirty, and tired, but smiling after every training session. He had learned in just those 4 days, far more than he learned in the first 3 years of the academy. All it took was a patient teacher with a sharp eye to see the boy's latent potential. Those 4 days were some of the happiest Naruto had in a long time, not to mention productive. He now had a very good friend that was also a jounin, who was willing to take the time to teach him things. Naruto had a nightmare the third night, and was screaming out. Ichigo had heard him, and burst into the small apartment, thinking that some stupid villager had attacked his new friend. He realized that it was only a nightmare, but still tried to calm him down. Sure, it's alright, kiddo. It's just me, the older blonde told him softly to soothe him. Inside, the Kyuubi was doing the same thing. His mind was a real mess due to the nightmare, and it was affecting her as well. She held her host's mental figure tightly with her arms and tails, while trying to soothe the boy's pain. Sure, it's okay, my little kid. I won't let them hurt you. Be at ease, the fox demoness whispered in his ear while she sang him a gentle lullaby. Saki noticed that his breathing was calming down, and his body began to go slack and relax. The mighty demoness shed a tear at the damage the village had done to the innocent boy over the years. They have the nerve to call me a demon. They have proven themselves more like the evil monsters that they claim me to be than I could ever become, and this poor kid has paid the price for their gross ignorance. I'll watch over you while you sleep, Naruto-kun. I will make sure no more nightmares come to harm you. Naruto was taken out of his musings by the sound of his timer going off, telling him that his ramen was ready to eat. He quickly ate his breakfast, did his dishes, and left for the academy, for the final time. Naruto wasted no time in getting to his soon-to-be old classroom. He was in a somewhat more cheerful mood, as he moved to take his seat. Shikamaru Nara noticed his walk past him. That can't be right, he thought. Hey Naruto, didn't you fail the exam? Not that I mind you being here, he asked the bright blonde genin. Naruto didn't mind the question one bit. Nope, I did a makeup test, and aced it, so here I am, he told the lazy Nara calmly with a smile. Shikamaru noticed a subtle change in his fellow genin. He's more calm now, collected. This will be interesting to see, he noted with a grin. Just before Naruto made it to his seat, he was stopped by an obnoxious voice calling to him. Hey Dobe, don't ignore me, I said what do you think you're doing here? Kiba Inuzuka sneered at him. Naruto turned to him with an annoyed look and replied, What, you didn't hear what I told Shikamaru? I don't feel like explaining it again, so take a hike. He finished with a negligent wave of his hand while turning around. This of course enraged the temperamental Inuzuka. Don't you get fresh with me, you weakling, he roared, as he bore down on Naruto. With a snap move of his arm, and the lessons in grappling that Ichigo gave him, he grabbed the Dognin's arm, and threw him across the room. Before Kiba could get his bearings again, Naruto grabbed his throat, and pinned him to the wall. The first thing Kiba noticed was that Naruto no longer had blue eyes anymore. They were a bloody, crimson red. The next thing was that he seemed much more powerful than he'd ever seen before. The last was his voice. Don't ever do that again. Do you understand me? He growled in an almost double voice, but still calm, completely freaking out everyone in the room, especially Kiba, and his dog, Akamaru. All Kiba could do was nod dumbly. He was frightened, terrified, and his partner even more so. For that brief moment, the class clown seemed inhuman, almost demonic. Across the room, a pair of pale eyes watched him with worry. Hinata Hyuga, heir to the most prestigious in the village, had a huge crush on the blonde prankster. She saw the terrifying change come over him, but she knew that he only reacted in self-defense. Naruto-kun, I wish I could tell you that I know your secret, and that I don't care. The QB is the QB, and you are you, no matter what anyone says. Naruto finally made it to his seat, which happened to be right next to the Rookie of the Year, Sasuke Uchiha. Said Uchiha seemed to brood and sulk all the time, even though almost the entire village went out of their way to literally worship the ground he walked on, spoiling him beyond imagination. Sasuke had everything that Naruto ever wanted, but scoffs at it. The prodigy truly disgusted him, but he never let his jealousy get the better of him. Sasuke Uchiha looked over to see the dead last of his class take a seat next to him. Naruto usually went beneath his notice, labeling him as inferior like everyone else, and scoffing at him. However, when he saw what happened with Kiba, he wanted to know what Naruto did, thinking that it was some kind of. He wanted that power, and no dope would have a power that he didn't, not if he had his way. Naruto had laid his head down on the desk in front of him, trying to get a few more minutes of sleep when he heard a commotion come from the classroom door. Ah man, now what? He groaned to himself. Like a small stampede, two girls rushed in, homing in on the seat Naruto was currently sitting in. Sakura Haruno, and her once friend, and now rival Ino Yamanaka were just like the rest of the village where Naruto's welfare was concerned, not concerned at all. To them, the misunderstood blonde was seen as a loser, and a bad seed, one to never be friendly with or it would mean social suicide. They were told to just ignore him by the other adults, but they, and some of their classmates took it upon themselves to take it just a bit further. They insulted, and ridiculed him every chance they got, and Sakura even went as far as hitting, and hurting him physically. They didn't think it was wrong due to the fact that none of the teachers stopped them, nor did the adults who witnessed it. Just as they reached his seat, Naruto was brutally ripped from it by the pink-haired girl, with absolutely no warning. He landed hard on his left shoulder, slightly dislocating it. Naruto hissed in pain, as he grabbed the injured shoulder, and slammed it back into place against the wall, like Ichigo taught him to do, but didn't recommend. He bit the inside of his cheek so hard that he drew blood, but it was all he could do to keep from screaming out in pain. Inside the seal, Saki was furious at how callously her host was treated by this pink-haired harpy. The nerve of that wench, she thought, while her hands and body quaked with fury. Hurting my kid just to be near that Uchiha brat. If I were able to, as I wished, I'd show them just what they're dealing with. She seethed in anger, as she set to work repairing the slight tears in her vessel's shoulder tendons. As soon as the pain hit, it was gone. He made his way back to where his seat was to see Ino, and Sakura was still arguing over who would sit there. I'm gonna sit next to Sasuke-kun, forehead girl, and oh, I am Ino pig. Naruto had heard just about enough of their pointless arguing for his tastes. He was now officially pissed off. Kiba tested his patience, but these two wore it out. He was sitting there peacefully, not bothering anyone, and they came barging in, and threw him from where he was sitting. Hell, the chair on the other side of the emo prince was empty. They could have sat there crying out loud, but I know they had to throw me out of my seat. I've had it. That's it, he roared mentally. On the other side of the room, Hinata had a look on her face that was concern for Naruto mixed with rage, and anger for what Sakura and Ino did to said blonde. She had never felt as angry with anyone in her whole life as she was with the two fangirls in question right now. She was about to leave her seat to give them a piece of her mind when Naruto got up and addressed the problem personally. Shut up, shut the hell up, he bellowed. The terrible two had the nerve to look shocked, then angered. What did you say, you baka? They hollered back. You heard me, but in case you have Kiba's hearing problem, I'll say it again, shut the hell up, he roared again, louder for good measure. What the hell is your damage? Just ripping me from my seat like that, he added, then proceeded to rip them a new asshole apiece. Meanwhile, on a branch outside of the classroom, Ichigo sat perched on a branch that gave him a good view, but kept him hidden, as well. It just wouldn't do to be caught watching over him. He nearly blew his cover when Naruto got angry the first time. But now, Naruto was angrier than before, and he sensed some of Saki's chakra leaking out. During the past week, he had been communicating with her via a shared mental link that was uninhibited by the seal. He had asked her what happened after he disappeared from their time, but she had no clue. The attack that sent him away put her into a sort of hibernation, so she couldn't tell him. He knew that he had to get Saki to pull the plug on him, and fast. There was no telling what this much of her chakra in his system would do to him, and those around him. But she couldn't do it. The seal was too strong for her to have that kind of control, so she tried to calm him down. Naruto-kun, you have to calm down. There's no telling what this much of my power in your coils will do to you. Please stop, she pleaded with her host, but to no avail. Don't worry, Saki. I'll stop him on my end. I just hope that he'll understand, he told her sadly. Back inside, Naruto's anger was rising even higher. They thought of him as a piece of garbage, an emotionless punching bag to do with as they pleased. The Uchiha even told him that nobody cared about him. Sakura didn't help any. She just told him that a stupid, clanless orphan wasn't even fit to be breathing the same air as the Uchiha, much less the rest of them. Just a stupid, worthless orphan whose own parents didn't even want him. At that, Naruto snapped. Insulting his situation was the last straw, as he almost flew toward them. In the same instant, Ichigo intervened by flickering in between him and his targets, but sinking his fist into his gut and adding a little electricity to it, acting like a stun gun. The hit dropped him quickly, as the crimson-red aura around him faded, and he flopped into Ichigo's arms. He was heard saying, "I'm sorry, kid, but this is for your own good." The tall blonde Jounin gently lifted the boy into his arms with a sad, remorseful look on his face. He was almost out the door when he heard one of the Uchiha fan club comment on the situation. The dope went and got himself arrested. Serves him right for what he said about Sasuke-kun. I hope they kill that stew. She never got to finish, as she now felt the kiss of a very sharp blade to her neck. She looked over to where the older shinobi was before, only to see Naruto resting on an unused table with the ninja in question nowhere to be found, except right behind her. If you value your life, you will be silent, he told her, venom and fury laced into his tone. The killing intent that he was radiating was permeating the room, making it hard to breathe except for a select group of people, those who treated Naruto with some semblance of respect. I am not here to arrest him, he told them, as he resheathed his short sword. I'm only here to bring him to Hokage-sama, as he wishes to speak with him. Then I find all of this. I must say that I am thoroughly disgusted by your actions. What happened was completely uncalled for, and he pointed to Sakura and Ino, who were the ones who struck first. I have no doubts that if I hadn't stopped him, you two wouldn't be breathing right now, so consider yourselves lucky. Next time, you may not be so fortunate. Ino looked indignant at the insinuation. Ha! Sasuke-kun would have saved us. It doesn't matter how strong the baka is, Sasuke-kun will always be stronger. After all, what can some stupid orphan do anyway? This comment really set off the normally calm blonde. He hit her with a glare that was packed to the gills with killer intent that made her collapse to her knees with fear. You know nothing, you ignorant little girl, he growled in an inhuman-sounding tone. You don't know, he continued, in a quieter, more pained, and subdued tone. The pain being all alone, with no one to help you, everyone hating you for something you can't help, and they can't understand, he finished, hugging himself slightly, as he relieved part of his past. You're just weak, just like the Dobe, and the rest of this village. A cold voice sneered from the side of the room. Uchiha Sasuke stepped into the center of the room, his fangirls rallying behind him. Sakura piped up, Sasuke-kun is right, he'll be the strongest in the village before long. After they make him Hokage, even you will bow to him. Ichigo looked at her like she grew another head, as did Shikamaru, And Hinata, geez, listen to yourselves. Do you have any idea how dumb you sound? The lazy genius drew. Blind faith and ignorant devotion are both dead ends in the shinobi way of life. They started some of the worst tragedies in history. Ichigo added his knowledge into the argument. I agree. Those traits turned a once peaceful country into a genocide machine, nearly driving an entire race in extinction. They made a religion of peace and goodwill into fanatical and bloodthirsty mobs that murdered all those who disagreed with them. Tell me, where do you see your version leading you? The crowd was struck dumb by his words. Even the fangirls had nothing to say that could counter that argument. Iruka, who walked into the room to hear that, could only nod at the wisdom of those words. I agree as well. Blind fanaticism is foolish and very dangerous in this line of work. I've seen firsthand the kind of horrors that blind faith can give rise to. This time, Hinata added a response. Admitting that you are in pain is not weakness, but itself a form of strength. He always felt the pain, but never surrendered to it. I've watched him for a long time, and I know the real him. He is far stronger than I could ever hope to be. The young Hyuga spoke, pride clearly present in her tone. She looks just like Guren. Her eyes, face, and even her voice are the same. Sakura gave a rather unladylike snort at the statement. Whatever. Just because you like the baka, doesn't mean she would have finished, but a pair of activated Byakugan eyes, and a glowing palm mere fractions of an inch from her face silenced her. Not one more word. Hinata spat. Her words filled to the brim with barely contained fury. I have had it with you, and the rest of your kind. You fangirls really are a despicable breed. You will leave Naruto-kun alone, or you will regret it. Do not think that I am weak. I was merely holding back for fear of killing someone, but now I will not let such concerns stay my hand any longer. Do you understand? All they could do was nod. They had never seen a shy, timid Hyuga girl like this, so they had no clue what she would do if they tested her. Ichigo gave her a grateful look. Thank you. This boy has been mistreated for far too long. It warmed my heart to hear you express that. He thanked her, then turned his head to Shikamaru. You too. It's nice to see someone so young with such a level head. Guren, I'll protect this child of your lineage with my very life. It seems as though she has a bit of a crush on Naruto. I'll see if I can nurse it along, he vowed mentally, as he gave her a gentle smile. The similarity of this new jounin and her crush wasn't lost on the Hyuga heiress, as she summoned up the nerve to ask him a question. Amano, who are you? I've never seen you before, but you seem to look just like Naruto-kun. It was an honest enough question, so he figured it deserved an equally honest answer. Me? I'm his neighbor. The name's Ichigo Suzumiya. As for the resemblance, it's just a coincidence. Hinata seemed satisfied with that answer, and introduced herself. I must apologize for my ill manners. I am Hinata Hyuga. It is a pleasure to meet you, Suzumiya-san. She told him in a polite and gentle tone with a graceful bow. Shikamaru smirked a bit at this new jounin's relaxed attitude. Shikamaru Nara here. Nice to meet you, Suzumiya-san. Iruka shared the same smirk, and decided to introduce himself, as well. My name is Iruka Yumino, their instructor. A pleasure, Suzumiya-san, he greeted, extending his hand for a handshake, which Ichigo took up with a smile. Ichigo chuckled warmly at the honorific. No worries, it's alright. You guys can just call me Ichigo, he told them, as he hefted an unconscious Naruto into his arms. Iruka-san, could you pass on a message to whomever Naruto's jounin-sensei might be that I have taken him to see Hokage-sama? Sure, but why? Ichigo's voice took on a serious and professional tone. Tell whomever it is that it has to do with his condition, and October 10th. Iruka caught the meaning in the message, and nodded, understanding the need to see the Hokage so urgently. Right, I'll inform him or her, and direct them your way. Thank you, Iruka-san. I must be going now, he answered the school teacher, his voice echoing, as he flickered away in a burst of pure speed, and leaving behind a bewildered class. Iruka cleared his throat to get the attention of the class for team assignments. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your jounin-sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Sakura balked at the mention of Naruto being on her team. Why do I have to get saddled with the dope? That's not fair, she whined to Iruka, but he just wouldn't have it. These teams are decided upon by the Hokage himself. Would you claim to know better than him, Miss Haruno? He shot back at her in a calm yet still challenging tone, a tone that dared her to speak again. Meanwhile, still brooding in his seat, Sasuke sneered at the team makeup. A useless doobie and pathetic fangirl. If you hold me back, you'll regret it, he told Sakura in a cold, seething tone. Sakura looked as though she had been slapped. But you see can't mean that, can you, Sasuke-kun? She asked him with desperation, her eyes stinging with tears, as she tried to take his arm. Sasuke roughly shoved her away like she was contagious. Don't touch me. You are nothing but a burden, so stay out of my way or else, he sneered, as he raised his hand to strike her. Shikamaru had seen enough. He might not like Sakura, but she was a fellow Konoha shinobi like him, and his mother had pounded some chivalry into him. He used his cage main jutsu to restrain Sasuke from doing anything else. Chuji followed his lead, expanding his hands and arms to trap the Uchiha. That's enough, Uchiha, the lazy Nara growled. Ino couldn't believe what these two were doing to the object of her affections as she began to berate them. What the hell are you doing to Sasuke-kun? Chuji fielded the response for this one. The same thing that Naruto would have done if he did that to you or anyone else. The large Akimichi boy answered her calmly. Ino was now floundering for answers and excuses as to why her crush would be so callous and cruel. He was just, she stammered out, but was cut off by none other than Shino Aburame. Why do you continue to make excuses for him when you know what he is really like? This is clearly not logical or rational behavior. The silent Bugnin started in a rather clearer tone than his usual silent one. Iruka had also seen enough. Enough, he bellowed, not even using the famed big head that he normally used when reprimanding students. This told the class that he was really pissed off this time. This also caused the two longtime friends to release Sasuke. Sasuke Uchiha, what you just showed was blatant disregard for your teammates and contempt for your fellow shinobi. If it were within my authority, I would take your headband right now and ban you from ever becoming a ninja. You will be silent, and I will hear about no more of your little temper tantrums, he growled out, getting into Sasuke's face for effect. Is that clear? He added. Sasuke simply huffed, turned on his heel, and sat in the back of the class, sulking over being yelled at. Iruka shook his head and continued down the list. Teammate will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your Jounin sensei will be Kurina Yehi. Hinata's face fell in disappointment. She wanted at least Naruto on her team, but she would have to make do. It would be unseemly to complain about something that was set in stone, especially after the scene Team 7 caused. Poor Naruto-kun on a team that hates him. I hope that at least the sensei is nice to him, she hoped. Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Chuji Akimichi, and Ino Yamanaka. Your Jounin sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. That concludes the pairing for this class. I wish you all the best of luck in your new careers, he told them, as he left the classroom. Ino was oddly quiet about the team makeups. On one hand, she still held her affections for the Uchiha, but when he was about to hit Sakura like he did, she was left with some serious doubts. She also remembered what Chuji told her, that Naruto would have done the same, as Shikamaru did, and jumped to her aid, regardless of the fact that they openly hated him. It all gave her a lot to think about. The other senseis came in, and took their students away, but Team 7's sensei was still not there. Sakura kept her distance from Sasuke for the time being. She was currently warring with herself over how to take what happened. Damn that stupid Naruto, this is all his fault, she ranted in her head. Her inner self, normally silent since she began her crush on Sasuke, began to rage back at her. Don't you dare blame this on Naruto. You've always known that Sasuke was like this, but you've always been too blind to see it. Naruto was always nice to you, and everyone else until you all kicked him when he was down. That disgusted me more than the constant fawning and time you've wasted on that brooding jerk. Oh yeah? Then why did that baka flip out like he did? He had no reason to, she counter-argued until being cut off by I.S. inner Sakura. Save the excuses. You, in all your brilliance, attacked him first. You ripped him from his chair and hurt his shoulder. Then you have the nerve to throw the fact that he has no one to come home to in his face. That was low, even for you. I.S. snarled. She was the voice of reason that Sakura somehow found a way to keep on lockdown. But enough was enough. She knew that her ill opinion of Naruto didn't come from her parents, but from gossip and rumors. The presence of the Uchiha was even more of a bad influence. This new information about the whiskered blonde only further fueled her dislike for his treatment, but her vessel was too easily influenced and gullible to see the boy for who he really was. He was sad, lonely, and calling out for help to a world that seems disgusted with his very existence. Her heart went out to him, it really did. But with the fangirl persona in place, as the main face, there was nothing she could do but try to talk some sense into her host. Sakura was at a loss for words at the fury of her inner self, but her fangirl tendencies once again took control. So what? He's still just annoying and stupid. No wonder nobody would adopt him. Inner Sakura was speechless at the sheer cruelty of those words. How could you? She breathed. She couldn't believe what she heard, but quickly recovered. This is unforgivable. This is how you repay his kindness with cruelty. As of now, you will treat him better, and at least as a teammate, or I will make you pay. Mark me, I will make good on my threat, she snarled, as she faded back into the recesses of Sakura's mind. You make me pay? Yeah right, she snorted. Sakura had no intention of heeding the warning of her inner self. She was just too set in her ways to just change overnight, let alone eventually. She was snapped out of her thoughts by the sound to the classroom door opening and closing. She looked to the doorway to see a tall, lanky-looking Jounin. Are you Team 7? He asked lazily. Sakura nodded. Aren't you one short? Where is Naruto Uzumaki? He asked them in a slightly exasperated manner. Sakura looked to Sasuke, but saw that he wasn't going to answer, so she decided to tell him what the jounin who came earlier told her to say. Kakashi-sensei? A jounin came in earlier, and took him to see the Hokage. Do you know who that was? He looked nice, but he was kind of scary, and he looked almost exactly like Naruto. She trailed off, as she thought about what was said. He also told me to mention something about a condition, and October 10th. Do you know what he meant by that? He asked honestly, because she had absolutely no clue what could be so important about the dead last of her class. Kakashi's only visible eye widened for a brief moment before he spoke. We'll do introductions here, then Naruto will get to do his tomorrow, he told them, as they did their introductions. Predictable, at least I got the Uchiha I wanted, he thought to himself about the two genin before him. Be at training ground number 7 tomorrow at 0700 for your test. Also, you might not want to eat breakfast, or you might throw up, he told them, as he flickered away to see the Hokage about Naruto. Sakura turned to Sasuke, who had already gotten up to go home. Hey, Sasuke-kun? Could I walk home with you? She asked him hopefully with a slight blush, hoping he had calmed down from earlier. The reaction she got shattered that hope. No, go away you pest, he muttered in a cold tone, and he glared at her. As he walked away, all she could do was sink to her knees, and cry. The one she idolized, and placed on a pedestal was being very cruel, and mean to her just like she had been to her teammate. Just then, she felt herself dragged into the depths of her own mind. Once there, she found herself face to face with her inner self. Well, how does it feel now that what you've done to Naruto all of these years is happening to you? Inner Sakura asked her, expecting an answer. Why? Why is this happening? This is all Baka's fault that Sasuke hates me, she screamed at her underlying ego. This again? How, pray tell, is this Naruto's fault? He wasn't even there to do anything. That other jounin, this Ichigo Suzumiya, took him to see the Hokage about something. It looked like something was wrong with him. He never acted like that before. It was so strange, she muttered. Who cares? Sasuke-kun is the only one for me. I'll never forgive that Baka for getting in the way. Inner Sakura groaned in disgust. You stubborn fine. I'll just keep letting you learn the hard way. Maybe then you'll get it in your head. Hopefully you don't lose it first, she growled, as she disappeared once again into her host's subconscious. She shook her head to clear it, then made her way home. Sakura wearily stumbled into the entryway of her house, as she called out to her parents. I'm home. Her parents, Takeo and Sanai, ran a small import-export business in the village, trading wares with various different countries and towns, and were moderately successful at it. Sanai was a somewhat doting woman with a level head on her shoulders. She also had a real knack for numbers, as she handled the finances of the family and business. Her father, Takeo, was a particularly shrewd businessman with a keen eye. His flair for wheeling and dealing kept them in the black. The night of the Kyuubi attack, they were just getting back into the village when all of the carnage died down. When they heard of the demon being sealed into a newborn baby, and Yandame's last wish, they knew that the fallen Hokage saw something special in the boy. They honored the final wish, and even tried adopting him, but was blocked by the council from doing so, as were the few other families and clans that came forward. They could only watch, as the poor boy grew up alone, and unloved. With how nurturing Sanai was, it broke her heart to see it. They had a few business dealings with the boy, such as letting him help out in exchange for food, or a little extra spending money. His work ethic and knack for quick thinking impressed Takeo so much that he offered Naruto a full-time job with him once he was older. But Naruto declined, saying that he already put them in danger just by being there, and he didn't take advantage of them when they were so nice to him, so he disappeared. The only things they heard of him were nothing but the same nasty rumors as before, and to make things worse, their daughter, Sakura, had started to spread the same vile rumors, and generally make the misunderstood boy's life in school just as bad as his private life. Even worse than that, she was a fangirl of that Uchiha brat that the rest of the village was so keen on spoiling. It made Takeo's blood boil just thinking about how the Uchiha clan are the ones responsible for making sure that Naruto was never adopted. And he knew that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Sanai was of the same opinion. All that she heard about Naruto from her daughter was that he was annoying, stupid, and the dead last. She admonished her daughter for thinking that way, for not getting to know him for herself. She had hoped that Sakura would be his friend or at least be nice to him, but those hopes were dashed. Takeo had just closed up shop when he heard his daughter come in the door. Oh, hey there, sweetie, he greeted her in his usual fashion. Hi, Dad, she responded with a tired sigh that didn't go unnoticed by him. So how did your day go? You got assigned to a team today, right? He asked his daughter. I can't believe I've got Sasuke-kun on my team. Ino Pig was so jealous, she squealed. Her father, however, was less than enthusiastic about that. He just grunted in acknowledgement, as he never really liked the brat. Every time he turned around, there was someone else lined up to kiss that little brat's ass. The rate at which he was spoiled had quickly become a nuisance. One day, the brat came into his store, and expected the prices to be lowered for him, as well. Takeo didn't really jive with that idea, telling him that he wasn't special, and had to pay the same as everyone else. Sasuke didn't really like being told that he couldn't have something he wanted, so he complained to the civilian council, and trade commissions about him. In turn, they slapped him with fees, suits, and a few with embargoes against him. That brat nearly flushed his and his wife's hard-built business down the crapper because he didn't get his way. The only reason why his small business survived was due to the help of Tsuchiya Chiraku and the Inoshikacho trio. They started to do their business through him because they heard how he tried to help Naruto, so they decided to help him. After that, he was a firm believer in karma, that you reap what you sow. Honey, what about your other teammate? The way Sakura pulled a 180 from perky to annoyed was a bit disturbing. That dope Naruto is just a third wheel on this team. He'll only get in Sasuke-kun's way. He shouldn't even be a ninja. She would have continued on, but she was interrupted by the most unlikely person, her mother. Sanai looked absolutely furious. She had sat there and listened while her daughter repeated all of the vile rumors that were spread about the Uzumaki boy, and it ripped her heart to shreds each time. She knew the boy personally, and found him to be one of the sweetest people she'd ever known, if not a total innocent. Sakura, that boy has done nothing to you, but be kind and courteous to you and your classmates, but you constantly cut him down. I've heard of some of your more violent outbursts against him, and I must say that I am very disappointed in you. You just blindly followed along with whatever your friends hear from their parents, who have no idea who that poor boy really is. I met him once, and I must say that he is a very sweet and kind boy. Sakura was struck dumb. Her mother had berated her for her treatment of the dobe. Again. It took her a moment to get her bearings before she tried to mount a defense. But Sasuke-kun is the rookie of the year, from a famous, wealthy clan, skilled, handsome, and the village loves him. While that Baka is dumb, dead last, and a worthless, and poor orphan whose parents didn't even want him, she started to rant, but didn't realize that her mouth would get her into so much trouble, as she was slapped. Can you hear yourself, my dear? What has the Uchiha done that was so great? The only reason why he is so skilled is because he has teachers, and others bending over backwards, and tripping over themselves to help him, while the Uzumaki has had to learn everything on his own with no one to help him. Her father spoke this time. After this discussion wound down, and they ate dinner, Sakura took a bath, and headed for bed. As she let her consciousness slip, inner Sakura took the opportunity to speak with her. Now do you see? Even Mom and Dad told you to be nicer to him. They know more about him than you do, and you see him every day, she admonished me. Sakura wasn't in a very good mood from being scolded by her parents. Shut up, this is Baka's fault. He got me yelled at by my parents. God, you are so dense. I'm ashamed to be a part of you, she sighed in disgust. Naruto Baka, she grumbled in her sleep, as her parents listened in. I can't believe that this village's blind hatred has gotten to our little girl, Sanai whispered while she hugged herself. What can we do? Her husband placed a hand on her shoulder. I don't know. The most we can do is wait, and pray that this is just a phase she's going through. If this continues on, I don't know what we can do. Naruto's apartment, 1720 hours. Ichigo got Naruto into his apartment, laid him down on his bed, and went home. He couldn't believe how callously the boy was treated by his peers. The hatred their parents had for him had infected their children, as well. It was the same intolerance that he and Shina had to contend with in the past, and he didn't like it, not one bit. He thought back to an hour ago, when he met with Naruto's Jounin sensei, Kakashi Hatake. He had heard of his reputation as an outstanding shinobi, but from what he saw of the records from when his A and BU team took up guarding Naruto, he held a deep dislike for the famous Kopinin. Flashback. 1 hour ago in the Hokage's office, Sarutobi and Ichigo had just gotten through, going over some records on a certain team's mission. Said mission was for an ANBU squad to watch over and protect Naruto, but their performance was pitiful and reeked of foul play. It seemed like Naruto was led into ambushes, and they sat there and did nothing. Inoichi had been called in to check on Naruto's mental state, and after a brief jog through Naruto's memories he was satisfied. However, he was highly upset when he came out. Ichigo asked him what was wrong, and Inoichi told him about what his daughter had done, again. They continued to discuss what happened after Ichigo knocked Naruto out when Kakashi walked into the office. What's wrong with Naruto? He asked in an annoyed voice. The eyes of the 3 other men in the room hardened at his tone. He was assaulted by his peers, and in turn provoked the QB into responding. Ichigo spoke out in a low growl. He spun around, and looked Kakashi in the eye, studying him carefully. Kakashi finally got annoyed. What? Ichigo backed off, and began to pace in front of him. I read your file, Kakashi. Genin at 6, Chunin at 10, Jounin at 12, An ANBU captain at 14. Very impressive, he noted idly. I'm not following what Naruto's condition has to do with me. Hold on, I'm getting to that. I have the files and reports on a certain mission your team and yourself had in your ANBU days right here. To guard a certain boy Naruto here. Surely, an elite ninja such as yourself should have been able to thwart some attacks on the boy by civilians and lower-level chunins, right? He added, waving the file folder in front of him. This made the copy Nin's visible eye go wide with shock. It was like being on a board of inquiry. This jounin he had never seen before was grilling him on the Naruto protection missions. He stammered out before being cut off by a harsh gesture by Ichigo. Who I am is not important right now, and should be the least of your concerns. As for how, Hokage-sama was kind enough to allow me time and access to pursue these documents. How very interesting, he quipped, fitting the copy Nin with a gimlet eye. It seems as though your team actually led the boy into ambushes and watched while the beatings happened. They stopped the assailants just short of killing him so as to not bring the Hokage's wrath down upon themselves. Where were you when all of this happened? Kakashi knew then, and there he was caught. I was at the memorial stone, he uttered. He now realized that he made a grave mistake, one that should not have happened, and Naruto had to pay the price for it. Ichigo knew from his file why he would be there. Your teammates Rin and Obito, right? He asked in a more understanding tone. Kakashi's head bowed further. Yeah, Ichigo sighed. I understand the pain of your loss, but to allow it to hamper your performance so badly that an innocent boy has been all but tortured to death on your watch is completely unacceptable. This lapse in judgment nearly cost that boy his life, and betrayed the trust Hokage-sama and the Yondaime placed in you. He trusted you, his remaining student, to watch over this boy, and you betrayed him. He scowled at Kakashi. This served to raise Kakashi's ire. What do you know about pain? He snarled at the tall blonde. You're just an outsider who fell into Hokage-sama's good graces. You know nothing of the pain and suffering. Sarutobi had heard enough. Hatake, enough! The elderly Hokage barked out, seething with anger at the insolence of the copy ninja. This young man knows more about pain and suffering than anyone save Naruto. His entire world was ripped from him, as well as his wife and children. Furthermore, he did not fall into my good graces. Do not insult me in such a manner ever again. I have known this young man for many years, and is a person that I trust completely. He has acted out of concern for Naruto, which very few have ever done, to my eternal shame. Kakashi had never seen Sandaime this angry since the night of the Kyuubi attack, when the council tried to execute Naruto. He felt that discretion was the better part of valor, and swallowed his rage. Hokage-sama, I apologize for my outburst. I was out of line with my comments. Good day, sir, he said curtly, as he walked towards the door. He paused for a moment, as he opened the door. Tell Naruto to come to Training Ground 7 at 0600 tomorrow morning, he told Ichigo, then walked out the door. As he left, all three men let out a collective sigh. Ichigo shook his head. This isn't gonna go over very well, is it? He muttered. Inoichi nodded, and agreed with him. I know, but it had to have been far worse than him, but it was much better. Take you, and Naruto for example. He, however, continuously skips out on his counseling sessions. Sarutobi cleared his throat to get their attention. I believe we should see Naruto, and the status of the seal. Ichigo, he turned toward the younger blonde. Yes, sir, he replied with crisp professionalism. I would like you to test the state of the seal with Inoichi. In short, you'll be going in with him, as an insurance policy against the Kyuubi. He nodded. I'll get to see Saki again, he thought gleefully, as Inoichi made his preparations for his mind. After a moment, they were ready. With a nod toward each other, they jumped into the seal. They landed in front of the massive gate that was the demon's prison. They saw Naruto lying on a sort of red furry pillow just inside the gate. They made a move toward him, but a blast of energy forced them back. They heard growling coming from inside the bars, and they looked up to see the mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune herself glowering down at them. Ichigo knew he had nothing to fear, and he calmed down Inoichi, as he walked up to the demoness calmly. Saki, it's me, Ichigo. The demoness stopped growling almost instantly, and it began to glow and shrink. The glow died down to reveal a very beautiful woman with crimson hair, and eyes, with 9 tails, and red fox ears, who was smiling sadly at him. Ichigo-kun, good, she sighed in relief. I really don't know what would have happened if you hadn't put a stop to what was happening. That much demonic chakra in him at one time could have killed him, she mentioned. I'm just glad that we stopped him before he did something he would have regretted. I'll just work with him on his anger, Ichigo said before Inoichi interjected. If you want, you could send him to me for counseling sessions. I told you before that I'm also a therapist, and I am better suited for these sorts of things, he reasoned. Ichigo and Saki thought it over for a moment, and nodded in agreement. Alright, Ichigo replied, as they went over the finer details. Soon, they left the seal. The blonde duo relayed the decision to Sarutobi, and set up the first session to be in a week. After that, Ichigo picked up Naruto, and took him home. Flashback end. Ichigo looked back down at his last living descendant, and sighed. This village is a real messed up place, you know that, kiddo? He muttered as he stood up, made a note for Naruto, telling him about the next day, what he had to do, the counseling sessions, and that if he had any questions, just come on over, and he'll explain if he could. April 18th, Naruto's apartment 0515 HRS. Naruto woke up slowly, and held his gut in his hands. He felt like somebody rammed an electrified battering ram into his gut, as he got up, and read the note that was left for him. It explained what he had to do, and why he did it, along with what his new sensei had in store for him. He wanted to question the taller blonde about it, but he was gone already. The note on the door saying that he had a patrol mission that morning, and he would be back later that day. Sighing, he showered up, and ran off to the specified training ground to meet his team. Little did he know that he was in for one hell of a day, again. Training ground number 70555 HRS. Naruto stumbled into the training area with a few minutes to spare when he spotted two other people there. They might be my new teammates, he thought excitedly, as he ran over to them. However, his euphoria died almost instantly, as he saw who his teammates were. His sentiments were mirrored by his new teammates, Sakura and Sasuke, who felt that his mere presence was an annoyance and a burden, an unwanted one. Sasuke believed that Naruto wasn't worthy of breathing the same air as him, and Sakura just followed along blindly. Those two deserve each other, he thought sourly, as he sat down, and went through a meditation exercise that Ichigo taught to him to teach him focus, and was trying to ignore the glares that they sent his way. They ended up waiting for 3 hours until an explosion of smoke signified the arrival of their sensei. You're late, Sakura yelled at him. Kakashi at least had the decency to look sheepish. Sorry about that. I just got lost on the road of life, he told them. What a load of crap, Naruto thought, as he brought himself out of his meditative state, and back to reality. Kakashi noticed him sitting in the lotus position, and was taking in the genin before him until Naruto spoke up first. What? You must be Naruto Uzumaki, the third member of this team, he spoke out loud. We already did introductions yesterday while you were talking with Hokage-sama, but if you want, you can do yours now. Naruto looked around, and could already guess that they really wouldn't care, but he sighed, and introduced himself anyway. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, training, and hanging out with my new neighbor, who teaches me all kinds of neat things, and is actually nice to me. I don't like short-sighted and closed-minded people, arrogance, and people who look down on others for reasons beyond their control. My dream is to become the strongest shinobi I can be, showing everyone that I'm worth something, and to make my new friend proud. Sasuke and Sakura had just blown him off, and Kakashi had his nose buried in his smut book. Naruto couldn't believe how rude they were. Hello? He called out loudly. Kakashi snapped out of his Reading, Ohio. You're done? Good, now we can get to the test, he said, pulling out 2 bells. He explained that they had to get the bells from him by any means necessary. They had until noon to get them, and the one who didn't get a bell would be tied to a stump, and not be given any lunch. Naruto was about to launch himself at Kakashi, but held back, remembering what Ichigo told him to study his opponents carefully. As Kakashi told them to start, Sasuke and Sakura hid, but Naruto stayed, and surveyed the copy Nin carefully. You know, Naruto, most people would hide to do what you're doing, he commented. Yeah, and I'm not most people, I'm me, no one else. Didn't you hear me earlier? Was his reply. Well, don't you want the bells? He taunted. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, but I'm not stupid enough to attack you without a plan. Well, you'd better come up with one quickly then. Naruto gave him an almost evil smile. Who's to say I don't already have one? He countered. Kakashi really didn't like what he was seeing, so he took the initiative and attacked. His attack hit home, but Naruto just poofed out of existence. Kakashi was shocked. Kage Bunshin? How? He gasped inwardly. A scant second later, scores of clones popped out of the ground under him like demented daisies, latching onto the jounin to slow him down so that the real Naruto could sneak in and grab a bell. He silently thanked Ichigo for teaching him to be patient and use his head for once. Unfortunately, Kakashi was a jounin for a reason, as he quickly figured out what Naruto had planned. He seeped into the ground to shake off the clones that had latched on and popped out elsewhere. Then he began to slaughter the clones wholesale. Despite how well he learned from Ichigo during the past week, he could only improve so much. His taijutsu was pathetic compared to that of the jounin, but he kept at it. After a few minutes, Kakashi finally scored a solid hit to the head, and took Naruto down, hard. Kakashi now turned his attention to the other 2 genin, and began to stalk them. Sasuke watched the whole affair with a jealous gaze. Those were solid clones, not just illusions. How the hell did that idiot weakling get such a, and not me? He seethed with anger. In the meantime, Naruto stirred, and began to recover. Oh, HHH, that really hurt, he commented. Of course that hurts, he's a jounin. Naruto-kun, I think that the key to this test is teamwork. I know that you won't like it, but try to at least give it a shot, Saki advised. Naruto thought for a moment, then nodded. Alright, I'll try. But just for the record, they're more likely to attack me than cooperate. He replied, as he brought himself back to the real world. In the distance, he heard a scream that he knew was Sakura, so he headed there first. When he reached her, he made some shadow clones to scout around for Kakashi, and keep him at bay if it came down to it. He felt a faint chakra residue around her that he recognized as the aftermath of a genjutsu. He concentrated a bit of chakra into a ram seal, and barked out Ki. As he broke, the pink-haired girl was under. She stirred and woke up. Sasuke-kun? She asked groggily until the world came into focus, and she saw the golden-haired boy. Naruto Baka. She yelled that she threw a punch at him, just for him to deflect it away from him and throw her off balance. So this is how you thank me for releasing you from that genjutsu. I wanted to ask you and Sasuke if you guys wanted to team up on Kakashi-sensei and work together to get the bells. Ha, as if we would lower ourselves to working with the dobe. She sneered at him. The object of this test is teamwork. You should have figured that out by now. He's trying to divide us and make us work against each other. He tried to tell her, but she wasn't listening. Shut up, Naruto. Me and Sasuke-kun are gonna pass, and you are going back to the academy, she hollered, as she ran off to find Sasuke. Damn it, he muttered. They just won't listen to me, he added, as he got up to find Sasuke. As luck would have it, one of his patrolling clones had stumbled upon the emo jerk no more than 300 yards away from him, and Kakashi was nowhere in the immediate area. When he got to Sasuke, unburied him, and brought Sakura back around for a second time, he ran his teamwork idea by him just to have it sneered at. Why should I work with losers like the two of you? He told them coldly, mainly glaring at Sakura. Naruto sighed and shook his head. At least I tried. He commented to no one in particular, as he calmly walked off toward the clearing to try and draw Kakashi out. Sarutobi was watching the whole thing from his crystal ball in his office and was not impressed with Team 7. Naruto, the dead last, figured out the meaning behind the test and tried to cooperate with his teammates, but they blew him off. Sasuke because of his arrogance and pride, and Sakura just following along blindly. This is already starting to look like the team that I taught, the Sannin, and not for the better, the old Hokage thought darkly, as he remembered how the Sannin turned out. Back at the training grounds, a jounin with similar sentiments was watching the drama unfold. Those brats haven't learned their lesson yet, he growled in his mind, as he focused on the rest of the exam. The allotted time had elapsed, and the genin assembled in front of Kakashi. He chastised Naruto for fighting him solo, but not the Uchiha. He criticized him for not cooperating with Sasuke and Sakura, not the other way around. Naruto was tied to a post in the middle of the field, and was forced to watch the others eat while Kakashi walked off somewhere. But he told them that Naruto was not to be fed or they would fail. Sakura sat there in front of a hungry Naruto, gingerly eating her lunch when she heard Naruto's stomach grumble loudly, and saw him grimace. Inner Sakura took the opportunity to speak to her. That didn't sound good. It sounded like he hadn't eaten in a while. Never mind breakfast, she commented. Whatever. I'm not failing just because that loser can't afford to eat properly, fangirl Sakura countered. Inner Sakura seethed with anger, but thought of something. Hey, come here, she said, pulling in, and temporarily restraining her annoying main ego, and gaining control. Naruto noticed that Sakura got up, looked around, and held up a piece of her shrimp to Naruto for him to eat something. Sasuke saw this, and lashed out. Don't feed him. I'm not going to fail just because of that dough. We need him to have more energy if we're going to stand a chance against Kakashi-sensei. We can't do it alone, she countered. Sasuke thought for a moment, and relented. Fine, here, he spat, thrusting the food into his face. As he did that, Kakashi appeared in front of them, telling them that they passed the test, and gave Sasuke the credit for figuring it out. Both Inner Sakura and Ichigo had similar thoughts. That bastard, he's taking all the credit for something he didn't do. Naruto was confused by Sakura's actions. First she treats him like a plague, but then she feeds him, and helps him out. Saki, however, has a good idea of what just happened. That girl, she has a split personality. One that doesn't seem to mind the kid, and doesn't like that Uchiha all that much, she deduced. Kakashi had just wrapped up his little speech by telling them when and where to meet, and dubbed them Team 7. He then poofed away to parts unknown, leaving Naruto tied to the post. Sasuke got up, and got in Sakura's face, just as Inner Sakura lost control, and the fangirl persona took over again. You stupid girl, you nearly cost me my chance to avenge my family, he snarled, as he raised his hand to slap her. Suddenly, a jet of water from the nearby creek shot out, and nailed the raven-haired boy just before the blow struck. Sakura looked around to see the source of the, just to see the jounin from yesterday with his gloved hand held out, glaring at the stunned Uchiha. What the hell do you think you're doing? He growled, as he walked toward the stump that Naruto was tied to, and snapped his fingers. As he did that, the ropes looked like they were slashed with an invisible knife and fell away to free the young blonde boy. This got everyone's attention. He used without hand seals. I must have that ability, Sasuke clamored. Hey, you teach me that. Teach you what? How you did that? You used it without hand seals or even thinking about it. I must have that power, he demanded. I can't teach anybody to wield this power, and even if I could, I wouldn't teach someone who would strike and abandon his teammates in cold blood. He stated simply, but with an edge to his tone. This got Sasuke's dander up, and his pride stung. I said teach me, he roared, as he struck out at the tall blonde jounin, just to be caught by his throat, and lifted higher. Bad idea, kid, he muttered. Sakura snapped out of her daze just in time to plead for Sasuke. Don't hurt Sasuke-kun. Please don't. He didn't mean it. Ichigo was dumbfounded. This guy was ready to deck her, but she still pleads for him. This is sick. He dropped Sasuke, but the boy wasn't finished yet. He ran through hand seals, and called out to him. Katan, Gakakyu and Ojutsu, he barked out, as he spat a huge fireball at the tall man. He was about to dodge, but he noticed that Naruto and Sakura were still behind him. Damn, he growled. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a shield of water around them to protect them from the blazing heat. As the fireball died down, he vanished from view, and appeared behind the wannabe Avenger with his short blade drawn across his throat. You could have killed your teammates, you little bastard, he snarled in a calm, yet still fierce manner. Sakura was again stunned by what this odd man had accomplished. No hand seals or wind-up, just execution. Who is he? Naruto had a different frame of mind. He had seen Ichigo do this before, but it still amazed him every time he saw it. Thanks for the save, Ichigo-san. Ichigo nodded, and swiftly knocked out the boy, and picked him up by the collar of his shirt. You two go home. I'm taking him to your sensei for a little chat. He ordered them in a tone that demanded compliance. They nodded, as he vanished in a swirl of water, taking their violent teammate with him. Naruto turned, and began to walk home until Sakura stopped him. Naruto, do you know him or something? Naruto paused, and thought for a moment. Yeah, he's my next-door neighbor. He moved in a week ago, but he's actually kinda cool to hang around with. He likes to teach me stuff. Basic stuff like meditation, some basic grappling, and taijutsu, and a little chakra control. Every day, after kicking my butt into shape, he treats me to some ramen at Ichiraku's. He's a real nice guy, and wouldn't hurt anyone without a good reason, he replied, obviously proud to know him. He continued on his way home. The pink-haired girl just stood in silence for a moment before moving. Sasuke's actions gave her more to think about. This was the second time he nearly hit her intentionally, and now he nearly killed her. She decided to just put it out of her mind, as she trudged home. Ichigo arrived at the memorial stone with a burst of water announcing it. He spotted Kakashi reading his orange smut book while looking at the stone, and walked up to him. I thought I'd find you here, Hataki, he called out in a neutral tone that made Kakashi turn around. Ichigo dropped Sasuke on the ground roughly, with the copying getting slightly angry that someone manhandled one of his students. He was about to berate the slightly taller blonde man, but said the blonde beat him to it. He attacked his teammates with a fire, stating that they nearly cost him his chance at revenge. He saw that Kakashi was hardly paying any attention to him, then added that Sakura and Naruto were hurt to test his reaction, to which there was none. He was only concerned with Sasuke's well-being, as he got mad at him for hurting the Uchiha prodigy. I only knocked him unconscious, and brought him here to you, the sensei, for punishment. Just leave him to me, and go. My team doesn't concern you, he replied coldly, as he picked up the brooding jackass, and flickered away to the hospital. He doesn't even care for his other students, as long as he has that Uchiha brat. That bastard snarled in rage, but quickly calmed down, and went back into town to grab some sake. I'll need it. T Street, downtown Konoha, 1527 hours. Enko Mitarashi had just slammed down her third bottle of sake, as she gasped. Ah ha ha, that hit the spot, she whooped, as she reached for another stick of dango. Across the bar, a somewhat intoxicated man sauntered up to her at the bar. Hey babe, he drew drunkenly. Enko tried her best to ignore the man, but his sake, breath, and lack of personal hygiene made that kind of hard to do, as he kept pestering her. Oh, come on, don't you wanna have a drink with me? She snarled, her patience at its end. He attempted to reach out and glomp her, but a hand shot out and clamped down on his shoulder, hard, making his knees buckle. A tall blonde man made his presence known. Move, was his simple statement, but his gaze was packed with killer intent, causing the man to sober up almost instantly while pissing himself. The man scrambled back to the corner he crawled out of while Ichigo took a seat at the bar next to her. She studied him for a moment. She noted that he looked similar to the fourth, damn similar, but brushed that aside for now, as she spoke to him. I could have handled that. He merely shrugged, and replied, he was in my way, and I wanted a drink. She smirked at his response. Very blunt, and to the point. I like that. And the way he made that guy piss himself just by looking at him was priceless. Never seen you around before. Name's Anko Midarashi. What's yours? He studied her for a moment, and replied, Ichigo Suzumiya. I just got here last week, he answered her simply, as he ordered some sake and pork dumplings for himself. The snake mistress eyed his hardware, a ninjato of some kind, and a kodachi? He's a user, I'd say, but his build is more like a taijutsu user might as well talk some more. He seems interesting, she reasoned. So, where did you come from? Nowhere really, just wandered here and there, picking up things as I went along. I finally wound up here, and applied for a shinobi position, and got the rank of Jounin. The old man asked me to look after a kid named Naruto. This got Anko's attention. She was a member of one of Naruto's protection squads, and she grew kind of attached to the little runt. He was just like her, shunned and hated, except people were trying to kill him. She always got on edge whenever his well-being was brought into a conversation. She decided to listen a little more before deciding what to do. Ichigo sighed loudly. Can't tell her the truth, he reasoned, but thought of a way around it. Poor kid. I know exactly what he is, but that's no excuse to treat him the way he was treated. It reminded me of myself when I was younger. I was treated like a freak because of my unusual abilities. He mentioned, his expression crestfallen and hazed with pain. I know who you're talking about. I used to be a member of his protection detail some years back. Even when I was hidden, he could still find me and wave at me. Once, he even brought me a flower to say thank you for being nice to him. He's a pretty sweet kid. She chuckled as she recalled those times, as well as the times she rocked him to sleep when he had his nightmares. Ichigo chuckled a bit himself, and he drained a bit of the sake from his recently served bottle. Yeah, he's a pretty cool kid. He spotted me training one day, and threw these puppy dog eyes at me, asking me to teach him something. He laughed, but continued. I taught him some basic grappling, meditation, and chakra control exercises. I swear that kid soaked that stuff up like a sponge. I was shocked to find out that he was the dead last in his class, but that set off a red flag to me. If he were that fast a learner, what the hell has the academy been doing with him? Anko couldn't help but wonder. She knew that they tried to bar him from entering the academy, but she never thought that they would stoop so low as to sabotage his education. Those bastards sabotaged his training, she concluded. Bingo. He's graduated from there now, and on a team, but the sensei leaves a lot to be desired. Who's the sensei? Kakashi Hatake? Anko froze as she heard that name. She remembered how it was Kakashi's A and BU team that relieved hers, and that was when the attack started again. As if that wasn't bad enough, now that cycloptic bastard is his Jounin sensei? She thought. What about his team? She asked, almost afraid of his answer. Some fangirls named Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Anko let a small growl escape her throat. She had caught many Uchiha trying to harm Naruto, and now he had one on his team. Top that off with an Uchiha fangirl, and that asshole who let him get beaten and almost killed, and you've got a recipe for disaster. This wasn't missed by Ichigo, as he gulped down a pork dumpling. Yeah, that's how I feel. That little turd tried to fry Naruto while Kakashi left him tied to a post earlier. I cut him free, knocked out the Uchiha, and brought him to Kakashi for some justice. But what does he do? He lets the brat off easy, right? Ichigo smirked. He liked her. She was sharp, like a razor, and she was just as protective of Naruto as he was, so that made her okay in his book. Right. I was so pissed off that I came here to cool down, he related to her, as he continued to chow down on his food. The two made small talk, and talked shop for a bit. He learned a bit about her. She was a Tokubetsu Jounin, 24 years old, the same as him, and this bar was a favorite haunt of hers. He gathered that she had a rather sordid past, so he let it slide. Everyone has a secret or two. It was beginning to get late, and Ichigo was getting worried about Naruto. I'd better get going. I'll see you around sometime, Anko. Sure thing. See you later, Ichigo. Goodbye, said. The tall man left the bar, and headed for home. Just as he left, one of her friends, Kurina Yuhi, came walking into the bar. Hey, Anko. The crimson-eyed Kunoichi called out. Ah, Kure-chan. She greeted me enthusiastically. So, how is it leading a group of brats so far? Kurina heaved out a tired and haggard sigh. One's almost a mute, one is a total horn dog, and the Kunoichi is the most timid little thing I've ever met. If it weren't for the eyes, I'd swear she wasn't a Hyuga. Wow, sounds like a real dream team you've got there, Anko quipped playfully. Kurina wanted to change gears. So, who was that guy you were talking with? Anko sighed, and looked around before answering. She was sure that she could trust Kurina with this information. You remember how I was part of the Uzumaki Kids guard team, right? Kurina was stunned by the serious tone Anko was using, but she nodded, as she remembered. He was assigned to protect the kid, and from the looks of the team Naruto was dealt with, he's gonna have his work cut out for him. Kurina shuddered, as she remembered when they received their team assignments. Kakashi is his sensei. The same Kakashi that nearly let Naruto be killed on his watch several times. Then there was that Uchiha boy, and his fangirl of a teammate. This only compounded Naruto's problems. She had a sinking feeling that Kakashi was going to make the same mistake that the Sandaime made with his own team. She had studied on how to be a sensei, and read up on the Sandaime's team, and heard about it from Asuma, how the old Hokage still blames himself for how the team ended up. He favored Orochimaru over his other students because he was a genius. It looked like Kakashi was going to repeat that mistake. Those three will be a serious problem. He made contact with him, and is trying to teach him some things because he knows that Kakashi won't teach him squat. That Uchiha kid will get jealous of every little thing, and that Haruno girl will be like his personal cheerleader, making things worse. Anko confided in her friend, in an almost desperate tone. Kurenai knew that her friend was attached to the Uzumaki boy to an extent, almost like a sibling. Kurenai watched the boy one day, and saw the kind of treatment he endured. It sickened her to say the least, but she was shocked to see that he let it all slide right off of him, putting up a strong front to show them that they weren't getting to him. She was also hoping that she would get him on her team, but it didn't pan out that way. She also disliked Kakashi for a few reasons of her own. He read that smut book unabashedly in public, was tardy to everything, and just seemed lazy. The two kunoichi just sat, and talked for a while like they usually did, then parted ways. Before hitting the hay for the night, she wished Ichigo luck that he would most definitely need, and wished for Naruto's safety. She couldn't figure out when it happened or how, but that little blonde ball of mischief and energy had wormed his way into her heart. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.